Be still and know that I am God. I will be honored by every nation. I will be honored throughout the world. Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing well considering all of the tragedies and chaos that have been going on in the news lately. And I know for myself, when things like this happen, I tend to be very fearful, and I know that a lot of us are experiencing a lot of fear right now, a lot of anxiety, and so I want to come on here and talk about that and share with you a Bible story, one of my favorite Bible stories when it comes to dealing with fear. And so today we are in Mark 4, verses 35 to 41, and in this story, Jesus tells the disciples that they need to cross the lake. And so they get in a boat, and as they are crossing, a huge storm takes place, and the boat begins to fill with water. The disciples are panicking, but all while this chaos is occurring, Jesus is asleep. Verse 38 literally says, Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion, and the story continues by saying, the disciples woke him up, shouting, "Teacher, don't you care that we're going to drown?" When Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, "Silence, be still." Suddenly the wind stopped, and there was a great calm. Then he asked them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" I love this story and remembering this story, especially when it comes to dealing with fear, because there are many different elements that are going on. But this time, the part that really spoke to me, especially when I was rereading this story rather recently when I was feeling fearful, was the part when the disciples are waking Jesus up and they say, "Teacher, don't you care that we're going to drown?" See, the thing is, Jesus said that they would cross to the end of the lake. He was sleeping on the boat even though there was so much chaos going on. The disciples already knew of his power. They knew of the miracles that Jesus was able to perform. And although the boat was filling with water, they weren't capsizing. They weren't sinking. But the disciples were still panicking. They jump to conclusions. They think that they're going to drown, and that's why they panic and wake Jesus up. And I know for many of us, when we see really scary things happen, or we have past traumatic experiences, we tend to fear for the future. We tend to assume the worst when we see shocking or traumatic events happen. And it's one thing to be cautious, but it's another thing to be so fearful that we completely forget God's power. Because despite the winds and the waves, despite the storms you may be experiencing, despite the events you are seeing in the news, God is still in control. And I think that when we see these things happen, we tend to forget that. We tend to panic like the disciples. We tend to run to the world for comfort. We start to doubt God. We start to get angry or just simply forget who he is. And I think all of us need to remember what Jesus says in Mark 4:40 when he says, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" And imagine if Jesus is talking to the disciples here before his resurrection. Imagine what he would say to us. That's not to shame you. That's not to make you feel bad about being fearful. I think fear is a very human response to chaos or to traumatic events. But what we always need to remember, despite this fear, is that Jesus has overcome the world. That no matter what happens, Christ has already won. God has already won, and that God is in control, even when we may not understand why things happen, why he does certain things, why he allows for certain things. At the end of the day, his light has already defeated the darkness, and that this world is temporary, that we're not always going to experience this forever. And so I think knowing this and knowing that Christ has already won this battle is very comforting. And so I hope this reminder serves you well, and please know that even when you are fearful, God is still with you. He's not ashamed of you. He loves you. Jesus loves you so much, and that he is with you through everything, through all your fears, through all your anxieties, through all your worries. Jesus is there for you, and he will never leave your side. That's all I have to say for today. But again, I hope it spoke to you, and please know that I will be praying for you. I'd also like to thank my members on my channel for supporting me. Their names will be over here, and in my description, there is a prayer request form if you need prayer for anything. But regardless, I hope all of you take care, that you're drawing closer to God, and that you remember that He loves you so much.